Never tell people what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, in a world obsessed with noise, the real power lies in silence. We live in an era where everyone is broadcasting their every move, what they're working on, what they plan to build, who they plan to become. But let me offer you something radical. A shift in mindset. Never tell people what you do. In a society dominated by social media, instant updates, and constant sharing, there's a quiet power that's often overlooked: silence. It's easy to believe that talking about your goals, announcing your next move, or detailing every step of your journey is a necessary part of success. But the truth is, the more noise you create about what you're doing, the more energy you drain from actually doing it. Silence isn't weakness. It isn't uncertainty. Silence is strategy. It's the calculated choice to channel focus inward, where real growth and transformation happen. When you choose silence, you create space to think clearly, to adjust course without scrutiny, and to explore ideas before they're hardened by public perception. Every plan, every ambition needs time to mature, evolve, and root itself deeply before it's ready to be shared. Broadcasting your intentions too early invites a flood of opinions, assumptions, and distractions that can cloud your vision. Everyone has advice. Everyone has thoughts. And while some of it might be well-meaning, much of it is noise, static, that disrupts the signal of your own intuition. There is also a psychological element at play. When you talk too much about what you're going to do, your brain experiences a premature sense of achievement. Just saying you're going to start a business, write a book, or change your life can trigger the same feeling of reward as actually doing it. This false sense of progress can sabotage real momentum. You become satisfied with having said it rather than compelled to prove it. Silence, on the other hand, keeps the fire lit. It fuels the internal engine of self-motivation. Without the applause or the acknowledgement, you are forced to derive meaning from the process itself. That's where real mastery begins. Silence also disarms the expectations of others. When no one knows what you're working on, there's no pressure to meet external timelines or live up to a narrative you created for validation. You are free to move, adjust, stumble, and rebuild without explanation. You are accountable only to yourself. That kind of freedom breeds boldness, the kind that isn't swayed by praise or defeated by criticism. It's quiet, but it's unshakable. In silence, you cultivate presence. While others are distracted by perception, you are deep in the work. You notice the nuances, the flaws, the possibilities others miss. This attention to detail, this mindfulness, is what separates the average from the exceptional. While others are talking, you're building. And when the time comes, your results will speak with a clarity and authority that words never could. Silence creates mystique. When you don't share every move, people begin to wonder. Curiosity grows. Your name is spoken in rooms you haven't entered yet because what you're doing is felt, not just heard. That quiet presence becomes a form of influence, subtle but powerful. It draws attention without demanding it. Every idea begins as a spark, fragile, fresh, and vulnerable. In its earliest stage, an idea is nothing more than a vision in your mind. It hasn't yet encountered resistance, nor has it been tested by action. It exists in its purest form, untouched by outside influence. This is precisely why early ideas must be protected. They need room to grow roots before they are exposed to wind. Sharing them too soon can be like pulling a seed out of the soil before it has sprouted. The environment outside the mind is rarely as gentle as the environment within it. The moment you voice your idea, you open the door to judgment, opinions, and expectations. Not everyone who hears your dream will understand it. Some will question it. Others may dismiss it, not out of malice, but because they don't see what you see. They haven't felt the fire that fuels you or understood the vision behind your passion. Their reaction, however subtle, can plant seeds of doubt. One raised eyebrow, one careless comment, one forced smile can chip away at your confidence before you've even begun. and confidence is one of the most crucial ingredients in early execution. Ideas are sensitive to the energy they're surrounded by. If the first feedback you receive is skeptical or negative, it can distort your sense of what's possible. This doesn't mean that critique is inherently bad. Constructive feedback has its place, but only when your idea is sturdy enough to handle it. If it's still in the conceptual phase, if you're still shaping it, refining it, and building belief in it, then the wrong feedback at the wrong time can derail your momentum before you've had a chance to act. Silence in this context is a form of incubation. It allows your thoughts to develop in peace. The early stages of any dream are also the most intimate. They are moments of connection between your ambition and your imagination. Speaking your idea aloud often subjects it to logic and analysis too soon. But logic doesn't fuel dreams. Emotion does. Passion does. Speaking too early invites criticism to replace creativity. Before long, you may find yourself explaining or defending something that isn't even fully formed. That shift from creator to justifier can kill the flow that brought the idea into existence in the first place. Moreover, people sometimes offer advice from their own limitations, not yours. They project their fears, their failures, their lack of vision onto your path. They tell you it's impossible because it was impossible for them. They tell you to be realistic because they never dared to be bold. This is why protecting your idea is not just about silence, it's about discernment. Knowing who is worthy of hearing your vision and when. Knowing that timing matters. Your idea deserves the chance to become real before being evaluated. It deserves your full belief before being put on display. Without this early protection, even the best ideas can wither under the pressure of premature exposure. There is a wide gap between talking and doing, though they often get confused. Speaking about goals can feel productive. It creates the illusion of momentum, the sensation of moving forward. You declare your intentions, and people respond with encouragement or applause. And for a moment, it feels like you've already achieved something. But there is a critical difference between stating a goal and pursuing it. One is a moment of expression, the other is a sustained act of discipline. True progress begins when words stop and actions begin. The reason so many people fail to reach their ambitions isn't a lack of intelligence or opportunity, it's a misallocation of energy. They spend their time talking about what they will do, what they're planning, how big their ideas are. They hold conversations that are full of future tense. I will, I'm going to, I'm thinking about. Yet those same people often fail to follow through. Not because they lack the capacity, but because they have already satisfied the emotional need through conversation. The desire to impress, to be seen, to gain validation for an idea becomes more important than the effort required to bring it to life. Doing is lonely. It's not glamorous. No one claps for the late nights, the setbacks, the unseen progress. Action requires patience and persistence. It demands that you choose discomfort over ease, repetition over recognition. It's tempting to substitute talk for effort because it's easier and more immediately rewarding. But action, unlike talk, has weight. It builds, it compounds, it transforms. 1 hour spent working is worth more than 100 conversations about working. When you rely on talk, you invite unnecessary pressure. You've created expectations that may not yet align with your readiness. Now you must meet a standard you've set publicly, whether or not you're prepared. And that pressure can paralyze you. The fear of falling short of your own words can lead to avoidance, procrastination, or even complete withdrawal. You might avoid starting altogether just to avoid the possibility of failing in front of an audience you chose to inform too early. The more you talk, the more you risk giving away your power. When energy is spent on external perception, there's less left for the internal process. Real progress requires focus, and focus doesn't flourish under constant exposure. When you're doing the work, your priorities are clear. When you're talking, your priorities get diluted. Every explanation, every promise you make in public chips away at your ability to adapt without apology. Silence protects your ability to pivot, to experiment, to evolve without scrutiny. There's a kind of quiet confidence that comes from working in the dark. While others talk, you refine. While they seek praise, you seek mastery. Over time, the difference becomes clear. Talkers run out of things to say. Doers run out of limits. The path of action may not be as loud, but it is the only one that leads to transformation. Discipline is a language of its own, one that speaks more clearly than any declaration ever could. While words can be misinterpreted, exaggerated, or forgotten, discipline leaves undeniable evidence. It shows up in results, in consistency, in the quiet mastery of your craft. When you live with discipline, you don't need to explain what you're doing or prove your intentions. The way you show up day after day becomes your statement. In that way, your routine becomes your voice, and your progress becomes your introduction. Too often, people rely on words to compensate for a lack of structure. They talk about what they will achieve, what they intend to build, or how they're preparing to change their lives. But behind the words, there is no system, no repetition, no foundation. Discipline fills that gap. It transforms fleeting ambition into daily practice. It replaces short bursts of motivation with sustained effort. And most importantly, it builds credibility, not just with others, but with yourself. When you consistently show up for what you claim to value, you prove that your goals are not just fantasies, but priorities. There is a quiet kind of confidence that discipline creates. It comes not from external validation, but from the knowledge that you are keeping the promises you made to yourself. You don't need to tell anyone what you're working on because you're too busy working on it. And if they ask, you don't need to convince them. It's visible in the way you carry yourself, the work you produce, and the progress you've made. People can sense real commitment. They can feel when someone has depth behind their ambition. That depth doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from doing the work day after day, regardless of who's watching. Discipline also simplifies things. When your actions align with your goals, you stop wasting energy on justifying yourself. You're not trying to impress anyone or keep up appearances. You're focused, grounded, and clear. That clarity is powerful. It allows you to move with purpose and make decisions that support your growth. You're no longer swayed by trends or distracted by what others are doing. Compasses, your consistency becomes your compass, even on the hard days, the days when motivation disappears. Discipline keeps you moving forward. People respect consistency. They respect those who don't need to advertise their work because the evidence is already there. When you let discipline speak for you, you build a reputation that lasts longer than any speech. You become known for your reliability, your excellence, and your follow-through. Over time, people stop asking what you're doing because they already know it will be worth paying attention to. Words may create moments of admiration, but discipline creates a legacy. It builds something real and lasting. While others are trying to sound impressive, you are becoming impressive. There is no need to chase recognition when your actions reflect your values. Discipline, in its quiet way, commands more respect than any loud announcement ever could. The moment you share your plans, you invite the world into your internal space. Every time you speak about what you intend to do, you hand out invitations. Some to those who support you, but many to those who don't understand, who doubt, who question. Their voices, even when subtle, become distractions. The energy you could spend creating, refining, and executing is now divided, tangled in unnecessary conversation, judgment, and unsolicited. This is the hidden cost of speaking too soon. Distractions often come disguised as interest. People ask questions, offer their opinions, suggest alternatives. Some may mean well, but their input pulls your focus away from the clarity you once had. Suddenly, you begin to consider their views, their fears, their limitations. Your original vision becomes clouded by perspectives that don't belong to you. What once felt sharp and urgent now feels diluted and uncertain. This is how distractions creep in, not with force, but with subtle redirection. And before you know it, you're responding to others more than you're responding to your own instinct. It's important to remember that most people comment on things from the outside. They're not doing the work. They don't see the details, the thinking, the passion that drives your choices. Their feedback is based on their own experiences, their own fears, and their own beliefs. But your path is unique. Your idea doesn't need to be universally understood. It only needs to be executed with intention. When you expose your plans too early, you risk compromising that intention. You risk building something that is no longer yours, but a product of too many external influences. There's also a psychological consequence to early exposure. The moment others know about your plans, you start to consider their perception of you. You start to wonder what they expect, what they'll think if you pivot or fail or take longer than anticipated. That pressure shifts your motivation. Instead of being driven by purpose, you become driven by performance, trying to match the narrative you've shared rather than responding to the reality of your process. This makes it harder to change course, harder to make mistakes, harder to learn freely. You begin editing yourself in real time, not to improve your results, but to manage how you're perceived. Creative work, strategic thinking, and deep personal growth all require space. Space that is free from the noise of opinion and the weight of observation. You need mental clarity to make progress, and that clarity gets compromised when your focus is pulled in too many directions. Distractions don't always look like interruptions. Sometimes they look like conversations, advice, or praise. But even praise, if received too early, can create an illusion of arrival. It can make you feel finished before the work is truly done. By keeping your goals private during their formative stages, you shield them from the noise. You protect the clarity that progress depends on. This doesn't mean isolating yourself forever. It means knowing the value of uninterrupted focus and giving your ideas the environment they need to thrive. There is a distinct power in doing meaningful work out of sight. The world often equates visibility with value, but the truth is that the deepest growth, the sharpest skill, and the clearest strategy are developed in private. When you focus in solitude, without the need to update, explain, or defend, you give your full attention to the process itself. That undistracted focus allows for true mastery. It is in this quiet space that ideas sharpen, systems form, and momentum builds. You're not performing, you're building something real. Focusing in private gives you the space to develop at your own pace. Growth is not always linear. Some days feel like leaps forward, others like standing still. But every moment of genuine effort contributes to the larger picture. When you're not performing for an audience, you can honor that rhythm. You're not rushing to meet artificial milestones or seeking approval for every small win. You are immersed in the work, moving forward in silence, allowing progress to unfold naturally rather than forcing it into a timeline meant for public consumption. There's also a practical advantage to working behind the scenes. It allows you to test without the fear of external judgment. You can explore ideas before they're ready to be shown. You can build prototypes, refine your strategy, and troubleshoot flaws without pressure. By the time the world sees your work, it's not raw, it's refined. It's not speculation, it's substance. What they see is the result of a process that was protected, uninterrupted by the noise of outside voices or the temptation to seek applause before it was earned. Working in silence doesn't mean hiding, it means preparing. It means you are not giving away your creative energy for the sake of attention. Every bit of focus goes into the outcome. The result becomes undeniable because it has been forged in clarity. When you eventually bring your work into the world, it's not a theory, it's a finished product, a demonstrated reality. People don't need to be convinced. They see the evidence in what you've created. When you prioritize execution over exposure, you retain control. You're not dependent on feedback loops or waiting for validation to move forward. You're not asking for permission to improve. You're already improving. While others are busy explaining their vision, you are building yours, step by step, layer by layer, until it's unignorable. There's a rare kind of satisfaction that comes from surprising others with your results. When people expect nothing from you, when they haven't been given a preview or a promise, your achievement lands with greater impact. It isn't anticipated, it isn't explained, it simply appears, finished and undeniable. That element of surprise isn't just about impressing others, it's about guarding your process, nurturing your ambition in silence until it matures into something solid. So the less you talk about what you're building, the more freedom you have to build it without interference. When you constantly talk about what you're going to do, expectations begin to form. People start watching, waiting, and sometimes doubting. They develop narratives around your progress, often before you've even had a chance to take the first real step. Those narratives can feel suffocating. They become a lens through which others view you, and over time, a lens through which you may begin to view yourself. That pressure doesn't always push you forward. It can just as easily hold you back. You begin working to meet expectations, not to fulfill your true vision. The prize, on the other hand, gives you control over your story. You get to decide when the work is ready to be seen. You determine when it's strong enough to stand on its own. This autonomy keeps you grounded. You're not reacting to others or shaping your work to fit what they think you should be doing. You're building with clarity and authenticity, and that kind of foundation is hard to shake. It's the difference between chasing recognition and attracting it without trying. There is also a psychological advantage to keeping your progress quiet. When no one knows what you're working on, there's no pressure to explain delays, defend decisions, or justify shifts in direction. You can change your mind, refine your ideas, and take your time without worrying about what others might think. That freedom gives you room to do your best work, not your fastest or most popular. It's an environment where creativity and discipline can thrive without being compromised by outside expectation. When you finally reveal what you've built, the effect is amplified by its unexpectedness. People are more likely to pay attention when something appears complete with no build-up, no constant reminders that it was on the way. It feels more real because it arrives without fanfare. There's no hype to measure it against, no inflated promises to meet. It speaks for itself. That kind of quiet arrival commands attention more powerfully than any promotional effort ever could. Letting your results surprise others also protects your energy. You spend less time crafting your narrative and more time crafting your work. You conserve your focus, directing it towards substance instead of perception. The people who matter will notice not because you told them to, but because your work is too solid to ignore. And when the surprise comes, it will not only reflect your effort, but also the discipline it took to remain silent while you were building. The strongest moves are made in silence, not because silence is mysterious, but because it is strategic. In a world that rewards noise, where everyone seems eager to declare their goals, their plans, their next steps, the one who holds back gains an advantage. Silence allows you to operate without resistance. It gives you the power to observe, adjust, and move without interference. The less others know about your intentions, the less they can do to hinder them, whether intentionally or not. This isn't about secrecy for the sake of drama, it's about protecting momentum. When people are unaware of your next move, they cannot form opinions about it, advise you out of fear, or impose their expectations on your process. You're free to make bold decisions, to pivot quickly, to move in directions that would confuse or concern those who lack your vision. Every plan, especially in its early stages, benefits from this kind of protected space. You're not burdened with questions or premature critiques. You're not working under the weight of outside assumptions. That freedom lets you move smarter, faster, and with a level of clarity that often gets diluted when too many voices are invited in. In any competitive or creative space, unpredictability is power. When people don't know what you're building, they can't copy it, criticize it, or work against it. You remove the possibility of sabotage, whether passive or active, because no one has access to your strategy. You move with autonomy, adapting as needed, building without distraction. It's in this kind of protected space that innovation thrives. Ideas are not diluted or compromised. They are executed with purity and intent. Silence also fosters resilience. When you're not broadcasting your every step, you don't fear failure in the same way. If something doesn't work, no one knows. You have the space to learn privately, to iterate without judgment. That space is essential for long-term growth. You're not rushing to deliver results that match your public declarations. You're moving at the pace that's right for the work itself. And when the time comes to reveal what you've accomplished, it won't be speculation, it will be reality. In silence, you train yourself to depend on your own feedback. You measure progress based on the work, not on applause. You build without needing an audience, and when the results come, they don't just speak for themselves, they speak louder because no one saw them coming. That element of surprise, rooted in discipline and quiet action, is often the most powerful move you can make.